All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Alderan Resources webinar. My name is Ryan Sudor. I'm one of the investment managers here at Sharerise, and we're here with Scott Caithness, the Managing Director of Alderan. Scott's just going to run a quick presentation for us today, and then we're going to do a bit of a Q&A at the back end of the session. So, Scott, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Ryan. I'll just share my screen. Okay, we'll put this in presentation mode. I hope. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, that's okay, Ryan. You can see that okay?
Sure can, Scott.
Okay, terrific. Well, look, thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the recent presentation that Alderan posted on its website, discovering critical metals for the future. So basically, I'll be focusing dominantly on the Frisco copper gold project, which we're looking to drill late June, early July. And then I'll give an update a little bit on the Minas Gerais lithium projects that we've got. Just the standard disclaimer for everybody. So just to give an overview for people that aren't familiar with our projects, Frisco, it's located in Utah in the USA, and we're targeting the Cactus District, which has high-grade copper and gold mineralization, which was mined in the past. So mining ceased in 1957, but dominantly ceased in 1920. And some of the higher grade drill intersections at Cactus post-mining include 5 meters at nearly 7% copper, 23 meters at 2%, 41 meters at 1.9 and 0.62. So there's some very high grade post-mining drill intersections into the deposit. New Year's is the prospect that we're particularly interested at this particular point in time, which is basically a long strike from Cactus along the same structural trend and not very far away, about 400 or 500 meters away. And we've done some work recently and we've located some of the historical data, and there's some significant copper intersections drilled at New Year's as well, which I'll talk about throughout the course of the presentation. With that new data and also a new model, we've identified an additional 12 targets, including New Year's, which have the same magnetic signature as Cactus. And our next step is to actually drill the New Year's target. In terms of the lithium projects in Brazil, we've got 7 project areas covering just under 500 square kilometres in Minas Gerais state and in the Lithium Valley region of that state. We're targeting the classic lithium model, the margins of lithium, cesium, tantalum granites with pegmatites and indicator minerals, also artisanal mining within and peripheral to the project areas. We know there are artisanal mines and there's lithium indicator minerals, including beryl and tourmaline in some of our areas. Stream sediment sampling, we've actually completed the stream sediment sampling program and where assays are imminent. I know I've been saying that for a few weeks, but we're expecting the assays to be back very, very shortly. Our next step, once we get those assays, will be to review them, identify anomalies and follow up. I'll talk a little bit about Frisco and what we're doing there, what we've done with the new data and also the new exploration model that we've got. So Frisco is located in Utah, which is a tier 1 mining jurisdiction. On the annual Fraser Institute survey, it ranked 17th in 2022 on investor attractiveness. Usually the Fraser Institute will be assessing and doing surveys on in excess of 100 different countries and jurisdictions. So Utah ranks very well. It's got excellent access to infrastructure, road and rail and power. There's a main road that runs right past the Frisco project. We're a sealed main road, so no issues in terms of that. Utah, it's certainly a world-ranked copper and gold mining district in Utah and also neighbouring Nevada. I mean, the Bingham Canyon, Rio Tinto's Bingham Canyon project is just at Salt Lake City, just to the north of Frisco. And Frisco itself is an historical copper, gold, and silver lead zinc mining district. There have been multiple historical copper mines throughout the area associated with breccias and in the Frisco's Cactus district, which is what we're focused on. We've got some new data and we've got a new exploration model, which has led us to be very excited about the targets that exist at Frisco. So I'll just give you a brief history of Frisco. It's basically underexplored for high-grade breccia-hosted copper-gold deposits. It's, as I mentioned before, it's an historical copper and gold mining district with multiple mine owners. So the photograph on the right is the adit that goes into the old Cactus mine. That adit goes in for in excess of 1 kilometre, and it was put in place back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So mining basically pretty much stopped at Cactus and this area in the 1920s. There was some minor intermittent production, which was largely out of waste dumps and tailings until 1957, and then all mining ceased. So all of the drill hole intersections that I'll talk about today, they're all post-mining. So they're all post-1957. Cactus reportedly produced about 1.3 million tonnes at grading over 2% copper, with the small silver credit, but also a gold credit of around about 0.33 grams per tonne, which was produced from these breccias. Post-mining drill intersections, I've mentioned some of them earlier. You can see the intersections there. The most interesting ones are obviously these are the highest grade, but of all the drill holes that have been drilled post-mining, I could probably put together in excess of 20 intersections where we've got grades of between 1.5% copper over significant widths. So when I say significant widths, I'm talking about potentially mineable widths. The interesting thing about the history of Cactus and this particular area is if you have a look at the historical plan dating back from 1941, there was the Comet deposit, which was more high-grade gold, in excess of 1 gram per tonne gold, relatively small deposit, mined historically. And then you can see the location of the Cactus deposit, and then you can see the location of the New Year's deposit. They're all on a structural trend which trends northwest, southeast. And then you can also see there's the Purity, Belmont, and Coburn deposits. They are all separate mines owned by separate owners when the mining was going on in the district. So they all had disputes. The deposits go out of one license area into another. And basically it was just completely fragmented ownership. So there was no consolidation of the area. And as a consequence, there was no exploration that was carried out on the area as a consolidated exploration target. Just again, in perspective, the distance from Comet through to New Year's is about 1 kilometre. Just want to talk a little bit about our new exploration model for the area. As many of you will know, the area was farmed out to Rio Tinto, and Alderan actually had it back, got the area back in the second half of last year. Rio Tinto explored the area for large-scale porphyry coppers, the sorts of deposits that Rio's after, billion ton, relatively low-grade porphyry coppers. Our model is a little bit different to that. Our model is associated with breccias, and there are a number of deposits throughout the world that have these characteristics, and I've listed some examples down the bottom. The Polaris mine in Mexico is probably the most significant. That's currently being mined by Southern Copper, which is part of the Grupo Mexico group, major copper miner in the world. Recent resource announcement was 71 million tonnes at 0.56 copper, but historically it was the mining production was 19.5 million tonnes at about 2.5% copper. So classically these deposits have high copper gold grades, and they sit within copper, gold, and molybdenum geochemistry. They typically occur in clusters. They elongate along structural trends. The highest grades are classically associated with the margins of the breccias. They tend to flare at depth, and they have vertical extents of greater than 1 kilometre. So in terms of what we know about the Cactus deposit, which is one of these and the most active mine historically, we know that there's high-grade copper and gold. We know that there's a cluster of these deposits, as I've shown you from that old map back in 1941. We know that the breccia deposits have elliptical shape. What we don't know at this stage, because there hasn't been enough exploration done, is whether the highest grades are on the margins, whether they flare at depth, and we don't know the full vertical extent. We know that Cactus, for example, has been historically developed down to in excess of 300 metres below surface, but nobody's ever bottomed the deposit with any of the work that they've done. So basically it remains open. I'll just talk a little bit about the modelling that we did. As I mentioned, there's been quite a number of drill holes drilled into specifically Cactus post-mining. So one of the things that we decided to do with this was we decided that we'd put a 3D model together of this. So we used the Leapfrog program. We put a model using all of the historical drill holes that we had data on. We modelled both Comet and Cactus. And this is basically an example of the modelling. This is a 3D image of the modelling. The critical things that came out of that work were Cactus and Comet have potential for incremental ore, which is the blue areas on the margins where there's basically gaps in the historical drilling. We also found that the deposits are open at depth. So as I mentioned before, Comet historically was mined at in excess of a gram per tonne gold, and the drilling, the post-mining drilling has indicated that that's consistent. Cactus, as I said, the grades historically have been estimated at greater than 2%. We believe that there's a lot more mineralisation left in the ground than what was mined historically. We can't verify the historical grades because obviously that's been mined out of the modelling, but we think grades of somewhere between 1–1.5% copper equivalent is what we're targeting with Cactus. And you can see also that Cactus consists of two separate lenses. It consists of a near surface lens, and also a deeper lens, which we refer to as Cactus Deep. It lines along a structure which trends, as I said, northwest-southeast. There is no reason why there is not potential for further lenses at depth, and we regard it as being open. The critical piece of information that came out of this modelling, though, is the modeller actually included the New Year's historical drill holes out of this. So New Year's was a target that was sitting there. It has had some historical mining, but there's no information in terms of tonnage, so it was a relatively small scale. What came out of putting the information together is we discovered that the old drill holes, which were very few, I think there's about 10 drill holes in total at New Year's, we got some significant intersections out of those drill holes: 13.7 metres at 2.3, within 19.8 metres at 1.67, 10.7 metres at 1.52, within 27.4 at 0.85 from surface. And then a third hole, 10.7 metres at 1.6 and 4.6 metres at 1.3, within 42.7 metres at 0.8, again from surface. So we were quite excited about those results. A lot of the historical drill holes have assaying only every second interval, so you couldn't put together an intercept, but many of the other holes have copper mineralisation. Not obviously the grades and the intercepts are not as good as these ones, but that may well be because of the assaying of every second interval as well. So we were quite excited about those results because New Year's, those drill holes, the first two drill holes in that were drilled probably in about 1964. The third hole was drilled in 2002 by Newmont, which is the whole NYM1 that you can see on this screen. So this is the screen that the modeller put together and based on the data that he had at that particular time. We did a little bit of further investigation work on this, and what we found was that the NYM1 hole that you can see there is basically, it was in the wrong position. We had the wrong coordinates for it. We basically found new coordinates for it that puts it halfway between the Cactus deposit and the New Year's deposit. So I'll show you this in a section as we go forward, but it raises the potential that actually there is mineralization that extends all the way from Cactus through to New Year's. That would be a distance of about 500 or 600 meters on the ground. The second piece of information that we did was Rio Tinto, as part of its exploration program over the larger Frisco area, it basically flew a drone, a very detailed, high quality drone magnetic survey in its search for porphyries. We've reprocessed that information, that magnetic data, with a view to identifying the potential for smaller tonnage, so medium tonnage, and higher grade copper deposits. So what we did was we basically tried to see whether Comet and Cactus had magnetic signatures, and then see if there were further magnetic signatures associated or similar to the Cactus and Comet signatures. So the figure on the left that you can see is more the district scale total magnetic intensity magnetic map. What you can see there is I've highlighted Cactus and Comet, and also the New Year's prospect. So you can see that Cactus and Comet sit within a blue area, which is a magnetic low zone. We've known that for a number of years. Rio Tinto knew that when they were drilling it, but we've never actually taken it beyond. We know that it sits in a magnetic low zone. What we believe that those magnetic low zones are doing is defining the structure that the Cactus and Comet deposits sit within, which is referred to as the Cactus Canyon fault zone or Cactus Canyon structure. And you can see that's got a pronounced northwest-southeast trend. It trends all the way up to the New Year's prospect, which you can see marked there, and you can see a blue zone sitting there right next to where New Year's is marked. But the interesting thing about that particular plan is you can see also that there are a number of other let's say district scale magnetic low features, some of which are more prominent than the Cactus and Comet magnetic low feature. We believe that they're associated with structures, and you can quite clearly see that many of them align sort of sub-parallel to the Cactus Comet structure, that Cactus Canyon. So our next step was to do 3D inversion modeling of the magnetics. And on the right-hand side, you can see the results of the 3D inversion modeling. You can see, again, I've highlighted the Comet deposit and the Cactus deposit, and you can see that Comet stands out as a relatively small, discrete magnetic low on the magnetic inversion modeling. You can see that Cactus stands out as probably about twice the size of Comet. Again, a discrete magnetic low. Then you go up to New Year's, and you've got it's a composite feature. It's got three nodes to it, but again, twice the size of Cactus, a very prominent magnetic low. And you can see as you look up that northwest southeast corridor, you can go beyond New Year's. There is another very large magnetic low, which is part of one of the nodes of the three prongs, and then another 2 or 3 magnetic features along that corridor. And then you start to look at the rest of the map, and I've got them circled in red. You can see a number of features, magnetic features, that look basically identical to Cactus and Comet based on the magnetic modeling. A number of those features too align with where we've got those district scale blue zones on the plan on the left. So we see that we've actually got as many as 12, possibly a few more, magnetic targets, which just haven't been tested in the past. They were not on people's radar. All of the historical work pretty much in the area has been focused on Cactus. Virtually all of the historic drilling has been focused in that area as well. And that's primarily because when you go to the waste dumps at Cactus, the mineralization looks quite spectacular. And everyone's been drawn to that as being the main target, and none of these other targets have been tested. So where we're at the moment with Frisco, obviously we've got Comet, Cactus, and New Year's. They sit within the same northwest trending fault zone, the Cactus Canyon fault zone. the total distance, the total strike extent, if you go from comet magnetic anomaly through to the end of the New Year's magnetic anomaly, is about 1.2 kilometres. New Year's has had literally a handful of drill holes, some of which have very, very significant copper intersections. Certainly economic grades of copper over mineable widths. The deposits have coincident magnetic anomalies over each of those deposits, and they're quite discrete. The historical hole that was drilled by Newmont, NYM1, the hole that I referred to before, you can see it midway between the Cactus drilling and the New Year's drilling on the long section there. That was the hole that intersected 10.7 metres at 1.6 copper and 4.6 metres, two separate intersections at 1.3% copper within 42 metres at 0.8, according to the log, all oxide from surface. The entire hole was mineralised. The whole depth was 42.7 metres, so we don't know how deep the actual mineralisation goes. So it raises the possibility that there's oxide mineralisation at surface that extends from Cactus all the way through to New Year's, because one of the other holes at New Year's that was drilled in 1964 intersected 27 metres at 0.85 from surface. The photograph at the bottom is a photograph of copper-rich breccia on surface from New Year's. Alderan actually, prior to farming the tenement out to Rio Tinto, Alderan actually did collect literally a handful. I think it was about 6 samples, 6 rock chip samples over the New Year's prospect. One of those samples graded 3.5% copper. So our conclusion is that New Year basically has been unexplored since 1964, plus that we've got another 12 untested Cactus and Comet lookalike magnetic anomalies identified in the Frisco area. So we're very excited and we're very optimistic about the Frisco project. So our programs, our next step, basically the soil sampling grid we're putting over the New Year's anomaly, the composite anomaly. Now that soil sampling has actually been completed. We finished that last week, and we're in the process of getting analysis done of that. We're going to do handheld XRF analysis of it. So we should have those results back literally probably next week at some point. We've also designed a 2-stage drilling program over New Year's. The first stage will be 4 holes, approximately 540 metres. That will largely be to verify the historical drill holes and also to test that Cactus Canyon fault zone structure. The holes, as I mentioned, the holes into the New Year's target were drilled back in 1964. The average depth of the holes, of all of the holes that was drilled between 1959 and 64, was about 60 metres. So really only scratching the surface, and that was skewed by one deep hole that was drilled to about 300 metres back in 1959. So clearly we've got to go back in and verify those drill holes and make sure that the assays are real and the intersections are real. The other one is obviously we're going to try and verify the Newmont hole. Alderan originally had the Newmont hole positioned at the New Year's prospect itself within the magnetic anomaly. We found some more recent data, which included a copy of the drill log that had handwritten coordinates. So we've got a little bit of conflicting information in terms of where that hole was, but we think we've narrowed it down with the log being the most recent, and also another piece of assay data information that has the same coordinates on it. So that was a bit of a revelation for us, because we thought that hole was into the New Year's prospect as well. And the fact that it sits midway between Cactus and New Year's is very exciting for us, because it raises the possibility of a much larger target. Obviously, if that drilling is successful for us, then we've got a second stage drill planned of 5 deeper holes and step-out holes, approximately 1,000 metres, to start the process of testing the size of the target and where it goes. Just another feature about it, the historical work. All of the historical drilling on New Year's was vertical, and the mineralisation, we believe, sits within structures, and those structures are subvertical. So it's very much been a case of hit and miss as to whether they will have been successful with their drilling. So in the past, so a slight step out in the wrong direction could give you a negative result when you haven't actually tested the target. So our holes will all be angled holes into the targets, apart from the verification holes. If I just give a brief update on our Brazil lithium projects. As I say, they're all in, as I mentioned before, they're all in Minas Gerais state. Minas Gerais is a very mineral-rich state. It's home to lithium producers in Brazil, and also 40 of Brazil's top 100 mines. So it's a very prospective jurisdiction to be in. Look, this is just a little bit of history. As people will know, we acquired the projects late last year. We've got 100% ownership of 7 lithium projects, which cover 472 square kilometres. The targets targeting the margins. The projects are targeting the margins of LCT granites, those lithium cesium tantalum granites, where there's pegmatites, indicator minerals, and artisanal mining, both within and peripheral to the licence areas. So we know that from the work that we've done, which includes the stream sediment sampling, that there are pegmatites within the areas, there are indicator minerals, there is some evidence of garimpo mining activities, so artisanal mining activities, certainly in 5 of the project areas. I mentioned before that Minas Gerais is a very mining-friendly state, and we're in what's referred to as the Lithium Valley region of Minas Gerais, which has 2 producing mines, which is the Salinas deposit, which is Sigma Lithium is developing and expanding at the moment, and also the CBL mine as well, which is operating in the same area, and it's been a long-standing operation in Brazil. As I mentioned, the stream sediment sampling has been completed over the areas, and we're awaiting the assays. Look, I'm expecting those assays to come back literally any day now. I know I've been saying this for a few weeks. It's taken longer than I expected in terms of the assays coming back, but as soon as we have those assays, we'll obviously be releasing the results. Why Brazil? Well, it's a very resource-rich country. It's as people know, it's a major competitor to Australia in the iron ore front. It's also a large producer of gold, zinc, phosphate. It also produces 75% of the world's niobium. So it's a very mineral-rich country. We're in the Lithium Valley region. There are known lithium mines there, and there are recent discoveries. So I mentioned before, CBL, which is a long-standing producer, produces about 42,000 tonnes of lithium concentrate per annum. There's also AMG's Mibra mine, which produces about 130,000 tonnes. So they are established producers. Sigma Lithium has just developed its mine and is basically expanding it through in first phase to 270,000 tonnes of lithium concentrate per annum, and I think is also moving into stage 2 already in terms of its expansion. And then there's recent discoveries by Alderan Resources, Galena deposit, and also Lithium Ionics Bandeira deposit, which are developing, you know, sizable lithium resources and good deposits. Certainly on my visits, it's got good infrastructure. It's easy to get around. It's you know, I've found it basically a very comfortable place in terms of exploration to this point in time. Our next steps, once we get the results, obviously, of the stream work, will be to review those assay results and to identify any lithium anomalies out of those sampling programs over those areas. Obviously, if the areas that we don't get any good anomalies, we'll obviously relinquish those as part of normal exploration process. And then the areas that we do get anomalies, we'll do some more detailed infill stream sampling to narrow down the areas. At the moment, our regional sampling has been on the basis of one sample every approximately 1 kilometre along stream, so we'll have to narrow that down. Then, as part of that process, we'll also do field inspections, geological mapping of the anomalous areas, and that we'll be ready to do that in Q3 2024, and then that will be followed up by, once we've narrowed down the areas, soil sampling and sample analysis of the prospects, and that will be the next step. After that will be drill testing. So it's basically an ongoing program that we're doing there. We expect the assay results for the stream sediments to come back over the next 2 months. And so we'll be regularly updating and reporting on those results as they come through. The other thing that getting us into and getting into projects, the lithium projects in Brazil, is there are opportunities that are coming through. And so we're going to have an ongoing program of reviewing and securing more advanced lithium opportunities. So we're quite excited about that opportunity, that potential in the district as well. So just to summarise our exploration program over the next 2 to 3 months, obviously we've completed the soil sampling over New Year's, so we've actually done that as we said that we were going to do. We're preparing for the drilling at the New Year's prospect. We believe that we'll be ready towards the end of June to do that drilling. One of the key things we have to do is permitting. The interesting thing about permitting is we do actually have some permitted sites on the New Year's prospect going back from about 6 or 7 years ago. So we're going to actually just modify those existing permits. So statutory period in the US for permitting is about 30 days. So we should be in a position where we're getting the permit towards the end of June. It should be the last week or so of June. Obviously, then we'll have ground preparation to do for commencing the drilling, and we would be ready to go either late June, very early July. And obviously, if that drilling is successful, we'll want to roll on to the second phase of the program, which again, that would be in Q3. In terms of the lithium, obviously identify and prioritise targets from the completed stream sediment sampling once we get the assay results, and then it would be a simple case of follow-up sampling, the mapping and soil sampling, geophysical surveying over the anomaly areas, and then basically it would be initial drilling to do that. And as I mentioned before, we're constantly on the lookout for new project opportunities to try and upgrade the portfolio as we go forward. Again, just a summary of our investment highlights. USA copper, we've got high-grade copper intersections at the New Year's prospect. Those drill holes were drilled in the 1960s, and there's been no exploration since. We've got the New Year's soil sampling done. We should have results for that next week, I'm expecting. We've got the New Year's drilling planned, and it'll be ready to commence in late June. The Cactus and Comet, the known copper gold deposits there are open, and we've got multiple untested geophysical targets that look exactly the same as Cactus and Comet. In Brazil, stream sediment sampling is finished over all of the areas. We'll have those results imminently, as I say, hopefully in the next few days we'll get results. Projects are located in the Lithium Valley, which is basically has operating lithium mines, new resources that have just been discovered and announced, and we've got a very supportive state government. And we've got the projects all in the right geological setting. So we're very optimistic about what we're doing in Brazil at the moment as well. Just contacts for further information. So that's where I'll end. Thanks very much, Ryan, and thanks everybody.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Scott. Now we're going to open up to a bit of a Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions they would like me to ask Scott, just submit it using the Q&A function in the webinar. I'm going to start things off. Now, based on the 2 sites discussed today, Scott, which do you see being the most profitable in the near future?
The most profitable in the near future. Okay. Well, obviously we're most advanced. We're most advanced with where we're at with the Frisco and drilling it in that Cactus area New Year's targets. So obviously, if we're successful with the drilling program that's planned, we would be able to just roll into a continuous drilling program, and that would be our objective. So if you talk in terms of near-term delineation of resource, obviously Frisco is the one that's closer to that point at this stage. Brazil, we've got to go through another phase of narrowing down our areas, and assuming we get anomalies out of the stream geochemistry work, narrowing down the areas and then identifying the targets first before we can drill.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much for the clarification. Now, just discussing the Lithium Valley. Now, you mentioned that obviously the area has a supportive government, and there are a bunch of, there are a couple of other operators in the area. Now, you discussed that it was a comfortable, comfortable area. Is the required infrastructure in place, or plans for it to be in place, come 5 to 7 years down the track, when the area becomes kind of drillable and profitable, so you can actually, vacate the minerals out of the area?
Yeah, look, I think you'd almost argue that the infrastructure is in place now. The areas that we're operating in, there's sealed roads to the areas we're operating in. If it's not a sealed road, once we get to the local roads are accessible. There's no major issues there. There's power through the area. Yeah, look, I think we're not dealing with highly isolated locations when we're talking about the project areas that we're working in Minas Gerais. Comfortable is probably not the right word, but it's no issues in terms of getting around. It's a mining friendly state. It's all geared up for mining. Mining's a major industry within the state. So yeah, it's okay. It's fine. I've worked in some pretty isolated locations in my time, and I would not consider this to be one of them.
Okay. All right. I've got a question as well as one of the other attendees has a question. Just regarding funding. So, how is the project burn rate looking currently? Is there is there enough funds to currently cover the drilling, or is there suspected to be a raise prior?
Yeah. Look, we're in the process of getting quotes back for the actual drilling at Frisco at the moment. So obviously we're going to assess that once we get the quotes back. Obviously we have been doing a lot of work. We have been obviously spending money on our exploration. But we'll assess that when we get the quotes back for the drilling. I believe that I've been advised that drill rigs are available. And obviously we'll assess what our next steps are in terms of our capital requirements as we in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. And just the last one from me, based on the exploration project you mentioned today, is there anything other exploration-wise currently sitting in the pipeline at the moment? And there's obviously kind of didn't really make the cut for the presentation today.
No, look, I've gone through the portfolio. Obviously, we've got a couple of other gold properties. We've got the Detroit property in the USA, in Utah, and also the White Mountain gold property in the USA, also in Utah. So, look, in terms of those, they're basically on hold for us at the moment in terms of our exploration focus. We think Frisco is the prime opportunity that exists. Obviously, we've got the combination of copper and gold, which in the current environment is very good. I mean, copper's flying at the moment, as is gold in terms of those targets. We believe we've got potential for medium tonnage, higher grade copper gold deposits. So and potentially multiple opportunities. So they're our key focus at this particular point in time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the clarification again. All right, well, that about wraps us all up for everything. So thank you very much for attending, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for the presentation, Scott. It was very informative, so thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Ryan, and again, thanks everyone for attending.